There are words that, though seemingly harmless, have the power to mark a person for life. They leave no visible scars, but they carve deep wounds in the soul of our children. Sometimes we say them without thinking, in moments of exhaustion, frustration, or fear. But the impact lingers, and over time, those words become walls that cool the relationship, distance hearts, and weaken the sacred bond between parent and child. Confucius, more than 2,000 years ago, taught that the home is the first school of the human heart. What is sown there with words blooms into character, worldview, and self-worth. That's why watching what we say is not just an act of love, it is an act of leadership. Today, we'll explore 6 phrases we should never say to a child, not to blame ourselves, but to open our eyes and our hearts. If you're interested in applying the wisdom of Confucius to the challenges of modern life, I invite you to subscribe to this channel. Here, we explore his teachings with depth, clarity, and heart. For Confucius, family was much more than a group of people living under the same roof. It was the place where character is built, where respect is learned, and where the first virtues are cultivated. He said, "To govern one's household well is the first step to governing a nation, because what happens within the intimacy of a family shapes the entire society." From this perspective, the role of parents is not to control, nor to sacrifice themselves entirely, but to guide. A father or mother is not the owner of their children. They are responsible for walking alongside them as they discover who they are. Parental leadership, then, is not exercised through shouting or guilt, but through example, through words that build, and through the humility of someone who is also constantly learning. Confucius spoke of the yunzi, the noble or superior person, not as someone perfect, but as someone who always acts with integrity, speaks with heart, and knows that the most powerful education is delivered through silent example. In that spirit, let us now look at 6 phrases we must remove from our vocabulary if we truly want to build a strong, loving, and respectful relationship with our children. "After everything I've done for you." This phrase comes from exhaustion, from feeling unappreciated, from a deep desire to be acknowledged. But when we say it to a child, the message is clear. Our love has conditions, and our acts of care are a debt they must repay. Confucius taught that true virtue keeps no score, that genuine love expects no reward. Raising a child is a choice, not a contract. Instead of demanding recognition, let us express gratitude for the privilege of loving them. Look how your sibling does. To compare is to deny individuality. Each child is a unique universe with their own rhythm, strengths, and challenges. When we compare them, we rob them of the chance to be themselves. Confucius said that respect begins with seeing others as distinct beings, not extensions of ourselves. Let us replace comparison with attentive observation. What does this child need, and how can I help them grow according to their nature? "If you keep this up, I won't love you anymore." We may not always say it so directly, but the message is perceived. Our love is conditional. Few things create more emotional insecurity than doubting a parent's love. For Confucius, the home was meant to be a moral refuge, a place where the soul could rest. Let's affirm what should be obvious. Even if I disagree, I love you. Even when you make mistakes, I'm still here. Love is not a prize or a punishment, it is the root. That won't put food on the table. A phrase often said when a child follows a dream that doesn't match our expectations. But who are we to judge someone else's calling? Confucius spoke of the Tao, the unique path of each person. Preventing a child from exploring their passion is denying them the chance to find their purpose. Instead of ridiculing their dreams, we should ask, how can I support you in developing what you love with responsibility and vision? Back in my day, we didn't complain so much. This phrase invalidates the present. Every generation faces its own monsters. What was hard for us may be different today, but that doesn't make it less real. Confucius insisted on listening without prejudice, on understanding before judging. Validating a child's pain isn't weakness, it's wisdom. It doesn't mean we always agree, but that we first understand them on their own terms. You should know this by now. Expecting a child or teen to understand everything at once is to forget that learning is a process. This phrase conveys impatience, pressure, and a lack of empathy. Confucius saw education as a lifelong journey where every step matters. Instead of correcting with sarcasm or frustration, let's practice patience. Teaching means repeating with love. It means showing up without giving up. These 6 phrases, though common, weaken emotional connection, block communication, and sow resentment. Letting go of them isn't easy, especially when we heard them growing up, but recognizing the harm they cause is already the first step toward a more conscious, loving relationship. Being a mother or father does not mean having all the answers, nor controlling every aspect of our children's lives. True parental leadership is not based on imposition, but on influence. It doesn't seek blind obedience, it seeks genuine respect. And respect is not demanded, it is inspired. Confucius said, "To govern with righteousness is like the North Star. It remains in place while all the other stars revolve around it." This metaphor perfectly captures our role as parents. We must be a steady reference point, not a force that pulls or pushes. Children do not need perfection. They need consistency. They need to see that our words and actions are aligned, that we lead by example, not by fear. A true leader listens more than they speak, corrects without humiliating, guides without suffocating. They know when to step in and when to step back. They understand that each child has their own path and that their task is not to push, but to walk alongside them. Confucius also said that the noble person acts not on impulse, but from understanding. In parenting, this means pausing before we speak, seeking to understand before we punish, and connecting before we correct. Many parents believe they must always be in control to be respected, but respect born from fear is fragile. It breaks over time. On the other hand, respect built through patience, attentive listening, and firm yet loving boundaries becomes a deep and lasting relationship. To lead in the family is not to command, it is to shape. It is not to impose arbitrary rules, but to set clear and fair boundaries. It is not to silence a child's voice, but to teach them how to express themselves with responsibility. And above all, it is to be humble enough to admit our mistakes and learn from them. Because every time a parent dares to change, they are teaching their child the most powerful lesson of all, that growth is always possible. It doesn't matter how many times we've failed in the past. It doesn't matter how often we've said these phrases without thinking, out of fear, anger, or frustration. What truly matters is what we choose to do from this moment forward. Confucius said, "It does not matter how slowly you go, as long as you do not stop." In parenting, this means there is always room to heal, to apologize, and to build a new relationship based on mutual respect. Words don't only wound, they also heal. A single phrase of acknowledgement can repair years of silence. A sincere apology can open doors we thought were closed forever. And a genuine, consistent change in attitude can transform the emotional atmosphere of an entire home. Our children don't need perfect parents. They need conscious ones. People willing to look inward, question their own beliefs, and grow alongside them. Because when we stop repeating what once hurt us and choose to act from wisdom, we're not just raising better children, we're becoming better human beings. So the next time you're about to speak one of those 6 phrases, remember, every word matters. Every word builds or breaks. Be the kind of leader your child remembers, not for the fear you inspired, but for the peace you cultivated. If this message touched something within you, if it reminded you that it's always possible to begin again with more awareness and love, I invite you to subscribe to this channel. Here, we continue exploring the wisdom of Confucius and how to apply it in our relationships, our decisions, and the way we guide those we love most. Share this video with other parents, caregivers, or educators. What you've just heard might be exactly what another heart needs to change the course of a family. Thank you for staying with me until the end. Remember, your words are seeds. May each one plant peace, respect, and true connection.